All right, guys, Bulls owner Jerry Reinsdorf and Bulls GM Jerry Krause refused to bring back Phil Jackson after the 1997-98 season. Well, Michael Jordan said that he wouldn't play for any other coach, and subsequently he retired. So, Shannon, I start with you. Had the Jerrys not blown up the team, how many more titles would the Bulls have won?
Man, Skip, you know I hate doing hypotheticals, but I'm going to say none. Because I believe, if you remember, Skip, they had gone to they went 7 games with Indiana in that last season they were together. They went 6 games with the Jazz in the finals. And if you look at what they were going to be up against, you do realize in '99, the Western Conference representative was the San Antonio Spurs. Tim Duncan, David Robinson, Sean Elliott, Mario Elie, and Avery Johnson. That was their starting 5. They went 15-2 in the finals. Now, what Jordan had a problem with was big starting lineups. And that's what, remember the big 3 Celtics, they had a big starting lineup. Skip, look, I know it's easy for us to say, but it's hard for me to believe that they were going to be able to get past that team. And a lot of Scottie Pippen, and I said that, you know, he went on to play 6 more years, but those years that he played was never like the years that he played with Mike. And so it would have been interesting to see. Now, I wish, Skip, they would have let this thing stay together, so therefore we could have had definitive proof one way or another. But I don't know. I'm going to say, if I have to hold my feet to the fire, Skip, I'm going to say they wouldn't have won another championship. Because you remember what happened in 2000, the Shaq and Kobe Lakers. You believe they beating Shaq and Kobe with Michael Jordan at 37, 38? Nah. Ain't happening. Skip, stop it, man. Stop shaking your head. Yeah, I can see you. You do realize I can see you shaking your head, yes.
Shannon Sharp. Michael Jordan had just won his 10th scoring title in 97-98. He was 34 years of age, and he wouldn't be 35 until the following year's February 17th. He had made first team all defense yet again for a 9th time. I saw him at his peak, and it would have continued because I mentioned before, the great Tim Grover had him on a workout regimen unlike any I had seen. Obviously, LeBron has another level, but again, this was an extremely high level where his body, if you look at it in 97-98, it looked fabulous. He had figured it out. They had learned how to manage him through the hardships of an 82-game season. And I'll remind you, he played 82 games, 10 times? So they got it. They had it down to a science. And I believe he could have played at that MVP level for 2 more seasons. And if you look at the rest of the team, Scottie, once he was away from Michael, well, he turned back into just sort of another guy. He wasn't a team leader. He wasn't a number 1. He wasn't an alpha. And when he went to Houston for a year and then Portland for 4, he got exposed as just a nice player, pretty good player who couldn't lead a team to a championship because he didn't have Michael. But obviously, Michael needed a Robin. He needed somebody. Scottie did play 6 more years. Tony Kukoc, who was very valuable to that team. Once upon a time, Jerry Krause called him the Michael Jordan of Europe. Tony Kukoc played 8 more years. He was just entering his prime. Luke Longley at 7'2", he played 3 more years. Ron Harper played 3 more years. Steve Kerr, you mentioned before, played 5 more years. Scotty Burrell, Michael was always on top of him. He's the 20th overall pick, and he really pushed him like ridiculously hard, but he played 3 more years. Little Randy Brown, who was an integral cog on that team, played 5 more years. Winnington, the other 7-footer, played 2 more years. And I get to Dennis Rodman. He played 2 more years. He psychologically self-destructed in LA and Dallas with the Lakers, but he averaged 11 rebounds a game for the Lakers and 14 rebounds a game for Dallas. I believe he had 2 more very high quality, maybe lead the league in rebounding, below the rim kind of years with the Bulls under Jordan. Jordan knew how to keep Dennis in line. I just think with Phil still being the coach, one of the great coaches ever, that they could have beaten the early part of my Spurs when they were just starting to become the Spurs, even with Duncan and Robinson. I believe they could have beaten them just because of Jordan. And I believe they could have beaten Shaq and Kobe, the young Shaq and the very young Kobe, with Jordan. I just believe, we talked about it the other day, I believe the 98 Bulls would have beaten, especially the first version of Shaq and Kobe. I'm sorry, he was just too dominating. He had the all-time killer will. He was the coldest-blooded assassin I ever saw on a basketball court, and this was the best defensive team I ever saw. Obviously, injuries could happen. We'll never know about injuries, attrition, whatever. But if the two Jerrys had stayed out of the way, I see two more. And obviously, if David Stern had not sent Michael on that early sabbatical that cost the Bulls 2 years of Jordan effectively, I think they could have won 10 straight rings because of Michael Jeffrey Jordan.
Skip, if you don't mind me asking, Skip, how are they going to pay him? You remember those last 2 years, Michael made over $30 million. Michael made more than the whole entire team. And then Scottie Pippen was coming up. You also remember, Skip, after Michael Jordan made that $33 million, they had the lockout, and what did they do? Put a max on how much a player could make. So the question is now, okay, you keep it together, how do you pay him? Michael had just made $33 million for winning a championship. What's he going to want now, 50? Scottie Pippen was one of the long-term deal. So how are you going to pay them to keep them together? And immediately after that, Skip, because remember the next season was a lockout. I think they only played, 50 games that year? And they put a cap. That's when the max salary came in, Skip, and they put a cap on how much a player can make during the course of a season because they saw the way this thing was headed. Skip, it's just hard for me to believe. Like I said, I just wish, for my sake, and I think for everybody's sake, we wish the Jerrys would have got their butts out of the way and let this thing stay together. At least, at the bare minimum, Skip, they owed us 1 year to see what they could have done. And if they don't repeat, if they don't, follow that thing up with the 4-peat, tear it apart. Okay, I'm cool with that. But it leaves too much speculation, Skip. It's hard. We knew for certainty that the Golden State Warriors was going to 3-peat. We knew it. KD, Clay, Steph, Draymond, it was a foregone conclusion. And then all of a sudden, a ruptured Achilles, a torn knee, and then we're thinking, if they don't get hurt, Skip, we'll never know. If they don't get hurt, I think most people are saying, yeah, I know Kawhi had an all-time great finals, but Kawhi Leonard, I don't believe was going to beat those guys. But we'll never know. And that's what happens, Skip. If he doesn't, and it's easy to say, if Jordan doesn't miss those years, 94 and almost all of 95, he came back with 15, 20 games left. If he doesn't miss all that time, Skip, to go to 8 straight, what LeBron did and not get injured, with the exception of Skip of that 2 weeks where he missed for his back, Skip, might be the most remarkable thing that we'll ever see, considering that in that time frame, you go to 8 straight finals, and he's playing somewhere around 70, 72, 73 games a season. Skip, nobody's ever going to do that again. And he didn't get no serious injuries. KD did it 3 times and tore his Achilles. Clay did it 5 times and he ruptured his knee. Think about it. What Magic started happening to Magic when they was going on them finals? Hamstring. Byron Scott, hamstring. James Worthy, knee. Skip, that's a lot of wear and tear. You're playing 82 games and you're playing in the June. I don't know, Skip. It's just hard for me to believe that they were going to roll this thing back.
All right, that's a fair point. But I just wish we could have seen it happen, see what would have happened, because they had earned the right for it to happen.
Yes.
And again, after Jordan came down wrong, flat-footed, and broke his foot, as you know, in the 84-85 season, he stayed remarkably healthy the rest of the way. He did not have a knee injury. He did not have a shoulder. He did not have an Achilles. And as I pointed out to you earlier, he played all 82. It was actually 9 times to just 1 time for LeBron. And 11 times Michael played 80-plus games. He did get the break of the forced sabbatical right there in the middle of the 3 and the 3. And I will give you this. It's remarkable what LeBron endured to get his team to 8 straight finals. But I still say the competition was not exactly severe in what we always call the Eastern Conference. And now back to how would you pay them? Remember, the NBA cap has never been as hard as the NFL cap. It's a softer cap with all kinds of clauses and loophole and bird rights, and there are ways to get around it. Not to mention that Michael, until that last year, is actually the last 2 years, had always taken outrageously low money. Yeah, but he took so little that he was Brady before Brady. Brady always took hometown discount to maximize Belichick's ability to surround him with the proper help. That didn't happen the last year there, but the point was he kept taking less than he deserved or had earned, or would earn for that matter. And I believe whatever would have been necessary to keep them together for 2 more years, Michael would have done financially. He would have taken less. Again, you heard what he said about Scotty. We needed Scotty. We wanted Scotty. All that. I got it. Well, Scotty deserved more money, obviously, than he was getting. So if they had paid Scotty, I believe Michael would have taken less, because clearly, Shannon, Michael was making beaucoup money from sneaker sales. He was becoming, or had already become, the all-time ultimate sneaker salesman, and the money he was making from Nike was just fine, thank you very much. So would they have had to cut some spare parts, mix and match with some veteran minimum? Yes, they would have. But everybody wanted to play with Michael, even though Michael was tough to play with and for. So I still say they could have kept it together if they had wanted to. And it's the saddest story to me on the court in sports history that they didn't get a shot.
Skip, you mentioned that Michael, he broke his foot.